Public comments?
We have full.
Brandy, we do have a full board. Bill is going to stay, though, as a non-voting member, so he can participate, just won't vote.
I think that he actually can't participate if he's not voting.
I think in the past, we've allowed for public comment participation, but not as a voting
Yeah.
member.
Todd, I'm gonna get your thought on that. I thought that we had them sit in as a member of the public, because if they're not a voting member, that their comments could impact the board.
Technically, you're right on that. From the perspective is that you're sitting on the board, you're not technically a part of the board discussion. And you carry no more weight than you do
Yeah.
if you're just the general public. And so the comments that would almost, from a perception standpoint, make it look like you are steering, where those comments could be made only during the time of the public comment period. That's just a
Yeah.
general.
Unless
I think that holds
anybody,
with what we've done in
unless
the
anybody
past.
else wants to leave. If you have other things to do, then
If there's anybody with a conflict of interest for any of the items on the agenda, certainly could. Otherwise, Bill, maybe it would be best to just have you sit there, and if you want to speak on anything, we can speak during the public.
sorry, Bill.
I noticed they are the most uncomfortable chairs in the building.
No,
Thank you,
they-
sir.
So, Brandy, he mentioned that he thought he would be counted as non-attending in that count. Do you know what the count that's online now of how many meetings you've attended and how many
Oh,
you've
no,
missed?
so Bill is an alternate, so it doesn't apply. And that ordinance is also not in effect yet. Because we just approved it as plan commission, and then we had the first reading at council on Monday, and then the second reading will be October 7th. So no, as an alternate, that does not, the attendance record will not apply. And that's the way that we've always done it. We've had the discussion of, and it's great. I love to see a full board. Rarely happens. So it's nice to see that we have the alternate here and readily available, that he has the willingness to be here in case somebody does not show up or let us know that they will not be in attendance. So appreciate you, Bill. Hate that we can't have you sit up there too, but it's just been our policy. Okay, and I'm ready whenever you guys are.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, September 19th, 2024 Watertown Board of Adjustment meeting. Brandy, can we get a roll call?
Yes, Kays.
Here.
Aletsky.
Present.
Ford.
Here.
Dolly.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
Colhane. And we have a full board, so our votes for the conditional uses will be 4 in the affirmative, and for the variance request, it will be 5. So thank you. And so with the full board, Spire is not in attendance. Well, he is here, but just
Right.
the acknowledgement there.
Brandy, can we clarify on the conditional use? Is it not still 5 out of 7? 2/3 of the members in attendance?
Yes, thank you. It's been a very long week, and I said that the last time too. I think it's just been a long month.
So
but
for both
appreciate that.
both the conditional use requests and the variance, it'll take 5 affirmatives to carry forward.
Yes.
But with the amendment, that's changing.
It
No,
will-
it still will be like, so, because we do have, then it's the same. So the majority, it's the conditional uses are majority and the,
President voting,
but the variances are present, the full board.
yes.
So it doesn't matter how many are present.
The CUP request going forward after this will be president voting of the simple majority of those president voting moving
Yes.
forward. But that won't go into effect till November.
Correct.
Right.
But it is the way that we regulate today. It just is not clear. We're clarifying that in the ordinance amendment. But it has been the way we have been operating.
Right. So today, because we have 7 members here, the rule currently states that you have to have 2/3 of those present and voting.
I thought it was majority. Hold on.
It's 2/3 in the ordinance, and that's the way we publish it on the
Right.
agenda.
Right, but going forward in November with the ordinance.
forward in
it'll go
November,
to a
yep.
simple majority.
Correct.
We're at 5 for both today.
2/3 of the present and voting, yeah. Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
Five
We're in the
for-
process
five
of
for
making some
each.
changes here. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to item 3 is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 4A on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 5th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Case, second by Brink. Discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 5A on the regular agenda is board consideration for a conditional use. I'll pass it over to Brandy.
Okay, thank you, Blake. So this request here, I was trying to get down, but my Finder tool isn't working. This is a request, as stated, for the property at 625 3rd Street Southeast for apartments and contractor shops. And this property is zone C3 Highway Commercial, and it is within close proximity to Highway 212. So if you recall, we have seen a similar application earlier this year and then I'll explain kind of the discussion behind it and what this is actually stating. So the contractor shops we used to allow, well, actually the commercial district, we used to allow for caretakers residences, but we clarified that because we want to be explicit on what exactly that is. And so now if somebody wants to live at the same property where their commercial business is, we are having them apply for apartments. And because that is the idea here is that, and it also abuts residential districts. So the discussion though that ensued when we looked at the property over on Eachins, across from the Elks, was the definition of apartment. So they are aware that they will have to have at least 2 units, and that falls into then to meeting that ordinance or that definition. So this is the property here. You can see how it is zone C3, but it also abuts that residential. So staff found it fitting with the compatibility of the adjacent neighborhood. But obviously in the C3 district, these are conditional uses that are brought forth to the board. It is conforming to the minimum lot size for a C3 district with 20,000 square feet and has double frontage with 7th Avenue and 3rd Street Southeast. So with that, I'll stand by for questions.
Thank you,
Chair?
Brandy. Yes.
Brandy, could you, they're also requesting storage yards. Could you give us a little bit of a description about that and what the parameters are about storage yards?
So the unfortunate thing is that the contractor shop's use in the C3 district has that tied to it already. So it's contractor shops and storage yards. So, and that's just how it's defined as well in ordinance today. So even if, and we can ask the applicant more on that of intention wise, but you guys could put conditions and make specifics if there was the intention to have outdoor storage. But unfortunately, just that it's one use under ordinance.
Is there anything in the ordinance that defines storage yards or gives them some parameters?
No, I mean, I'm gonna show you the definition, I'm gonna pull that up, but all right, contractor shops and storage yards, just so it's defined. Use of land or buildings for storage and preparation of materials used by that same individual in conducting business, including but not limited to construction, repair work, fabrication, and assembly, and incidental retail sales. Each unit shall have separate water and utilities services. So storage yards, pretty self-explanatory of if they have materials for their contracting business, that they would store those in incidental to a business. So assuming that's why they're tied together in ordinance, and that has existed for a long time.
Mr. Chair, can we request, or is it requested that they have a fence for the storage yard because of the residential homes that are around there? Is that part of it, or is it something we could put on?
Yep, you're spot on, Bonnie. That is something that the board has the right to do for a condition to ensure, but also we have it in ordinance as well for a commercial business being adjacent to residential, that if there's parking and whatnot, that there has to be a fence too, but the board can surely have that in there as assurance.
Board?
I teamed up with Evolution.
Good. I don't have the public hearing open quite yet.
Brandy, sorry.
Rusty.
Brandy, does that ordinance also include hard surface of the whole entire lot?
So the C3 district, there are no landscape requirements because it's not in the Gateway Overlay District.
But it doesn't mean that you can't, that has nexus.
Correct. That is what the board has the ability to do.
I'm sorry, Todd, what'd you say?
The board has the ability to attach conditions as long as they have a rational nexus to the request.
The boulevards will have to stay grassed. That is a requirement.
This time I'm going to open the public hearing if you'd like to step up and speak to the board. Just state your name for the record if you could.
Alan Scott. I'm not gonna put boat lifts there. I'm not hauling boat lifts into town. I teamed up with Evolution Power Sports in 2021. The boat lifts are built out there. They're distributed from there. This is something where I want to put Compesca Marine. I'm the old, what do you want to say? The old guy from Strandberg that fixes boats. I fix one or two here or there. I don't have 10 of them sitting out there at one time. One comes in, gets done, goes out. That's what I want to do there. It might have some dock stuff sitting there to build it. It's 8 feet wide. It goes down the city street without an over-width permit. Even though I do have an annual over-width permit, I'm considering contractor shops in the front. Mine would be in the back. My apartment with my repair facility and my garage. When you're saying storage yards, I'm not planning on packing docks and lifts in there. That's what I wanted to make aware.
Mr. Scott, Mr. Chair,
Yep.
you wouldn't have an objection then to the board putting a requirement that there would be not outdoor storage?
Yes, that's fine.
What's your plan in terms of fencing and hard surfacing?
Well, phase one is the apartment with my shop in it. Phase two is gonna be the storage facility, not the facility, but the contractor shops. We haven't really talked to how the driveway is gonna go, but it'll probably have to come off the alley, because you said the boulevard would have to stay grass. So There's a boulevard across the front and across the side.
Mr. Chair? Brandy, did I misunderstand you when you said there had to be 2 apartments?
Yeah, that's correct.
So there needs to be 2 apartments. Where will the second apartment be?
I had a floor plan.
Yeah, it's not on here.
Carla, was that something that came in after the agenda was posted, or did you submit that? Do you want to present that? You may, yeah, you
can.
didn't submit that.
Can we get the overhead?
Yeah, Trent, could we do the overhead, please? No, so Alan, we'll just put it right in between.
There's a camera up in the ceiling, it'll pick it up.
Right there. Which, I mean, honestly, even, like, you guys don't need to see the floor plan. We know that there's 2 apartments.
I don't think it's necessarily the floor plans. I guess to me it would be, are the apartments on the south side of the building or on the north side of the building in relationship to the adjoining residential property? I think that was probably, if I don't
there's-
care how it's
Right.
laid out, but are the apartments on the north side of the building or are they on the south side of the building?
South side.
South side. So your building will sit
So
in
the
this.
driveway will come in from like 7th,
The alleyway.
from the alley? Oh, okay. Okay, so you'll
For-
access the apartments from the alley, but what about for the contractor shop? Are they gonna come in from the boulevard? I mean, from the street or the avenue?
Hang on, and that is something that was not, so you can't access an alley for a primary structure. So you'd have to access a street. You can have secondary access on the alley. But and I did not know that information, because that is something that we'll look at when we're doing the building permit. But just stating that, I just want to make that clear. And he'll have to have driveway access to the streets anyway, because, or eventually he would, so he can just be strategic with that.
And the city has standard regulations in terms of curb cut placement and spacing between, in relation to the boulevard.
Yes.
The property to the north there, immediately to the north, that looks like that is a commercial use currently. But the property to the west across the alley would be the residential use.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm lost again now. Where are we doing it? It's that piece there that's currently vacant is where the apartments are gonna go.
Yep.
And they're gonna be connected to a building to the south? Or is there gonna be a separation? Is it?
We haven't got into that part of it yet.
No, so he hasn't designed them where it's like, these are the uses that he wants to do, and he has to design the site.
Okay, so I'm just thinking out loud. So we would require this to be on a single lot, or a developer's lot agreement, or how is that?
We would replat this property because it's a parcel. So when he would come in for a building permit, we would have him replat, which can be administratively done.
Okay,
And then it's one boundary. And then he would meet all the setbacks, and he would apply for his building permit, and then we would look at building code, setbacks, anything. But really what the board should review is proximity to residential. Where do you want to, what are you trying to protect?
so going back to the property that's immediately to the east adjacent to the street, is that a residence there?
Todd, that's across the alley,
Right.
isn't it?
No, right there.
That's a carpet care.
Morris Carpet Care.
Yeah, that's a commercial.
So that is a commercial business. Okay, I didn't know. All right, so I guess where I was going back to the whole conversation is where would the apartments be? They seem to be, it would make the most sense that those apartments would be on the north side and on the north side of the property adjacent to, but you're saying they're gonna be on the south side adjacent to 7th Avenue is where the apartments are gonna be? Or did I get that backwards? I'm sorry. Backwards. It's the flip.
You're gonna put the apartments up here, right?
Okay. that-
What's that?
But which is abutting as much residential as possible.
Okay, Brandy, I got a question on the legal description that's part of this. This just says lot 6 and 7. Where's 6 and 7? Because it looks like it's a part of a different lot, like the east so many, or west so many feet of a certain lot, and 6 and 7,
I'll pull it up.
right?
Okay, so
What I mean, Todd?
so there's a portion of a lot. So this is lot 6 and 7, this parcel here. And then this parcel is lot 5 less that east 65 feet. So the parcel is a combination of lots, which is why they need to be replatted. So it's within one boundary, and we're holding the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet.
But the parcel lot of lot 5 is not part of this legal description on this, on what we're working on.
On the conditional use staff report.
Okay.
Was that lot noticed?
That's what I'm actually gonna look up.
Because if it's not, we're gonna have to,
Yeah, yep.
Lot 5, you bet.
so we have it legal advertised, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
And with the agenda item here, yeah, that's just, it's not as important. We have the address of the parcel.
posted-
It was adequately noticed and
Yes.
posted with a sign. So we met our notice requirements.
Yes.
We're good, thank you.
No, that's an important distinction.
Give,
These are going to be separate structures or the same structure?
Separate.
So how does that, will they have enough room for to meet setbacks on the C3? Because, there'll be one
They'll
parcel.
have
We
to.
can have multiple structures on a single parcel in the C3.
yep.
Thank you.
Brandy, just going back to the access again, you said you can't access the principal structure from the alley, so there's going to have to be a curb cut somewhere on 7th Avenue there presumably.
Yep.
That's going to have to go all the way back to the apartments.
Yeah, but that, when he's gonna develop the property anyway, that he would have to have concrete or asphalt, whatever. But yeah, and so that might, he hasn't set this property
Yep.
in stone yet of how it will be designed, but he'll need access probably anyway, so yes.
Yep.
He
Just
would
in
have
terms,
to
'cause I
have
know you
paved
mentioned
access.
phasing, so we'll have to make sure that that's addressed, and the city, you've got the standards and the engineering design guidelines to govern that, so you're aware. Other questions for the applicant here?
Yeah, so your contractor shops that are in phase 2, depending on what design you come, are they going to be connected, or are you doing each individual, do you know? Or what are you thinking?
Probably one building and sectioned off.
And probably preferably facing south, right? I mean, that would make sense to me that you'd face them south.
But if I've got to have a separate driveway, wouldn't it be better to have, like where Norris Carpet Care is, and have a road coming in that way, so the contractor shops would face the north? Because then we'd use the same road.
And that is completely your discretion. As a property owner, you can make those decisions.
Yeah, and the engineering department would work with you in terms of how you want to lay it out to meet the city
Yep.
standards.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Just one more question. It's more on, not so much in design, but talking about fencing and screening on the property, residential property to the west across the alley. Can we tell whether or not any of those existing residences have fences along the alley?
Yes, they do.
They currently do?
The one, just across the alley, there's a garage sitting here, and there's a fenced-in area of the property line.
I would just caution you, Todd, to not look at what is existing today. If you have concerns with wanting a fence up, I would ask that a fence be put up. Yeah.
I guess my point was gonna be that if there were two existing fences there and.
The fence
built
could
that-
go down.
But the neighbors, that would be a current neighbor, the current neighbor's already taking care of it, or a subsequent neighbor would going into it with eyes wide open. That was where I was at with it.
Fences fall down.
Right, but
Yeah.
anyway.
One more question, Blake.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brandy, just a quick question. Off of that alley, and again, this is just for my brainstorming, how far would he have to stay off of that alley for the first building? Let's say he is, brings that driveway up between the two lots, basically. What is the setback from the alley for his first shop? Is that,
It would be 20 feet, like a side yard.
it is that?
And then we have the ordinance amendment that went to council, and that's for non-residential. Yeah, so that went for first reading where the side yard setback would be 10 feet, which is also in line. And now if he were doing a garage door, that would have to be 20 feet back so that he could have a sufficient driveway for parking. Same thing that goes for residential districts. So if he faces his garage door away from the alley, then he can just use a side yard of 10 feet after the ordinance would become effective after council, public hearing and action.
Okay, and then from the street side, how far back would he have to be? Again, if his doors, I'm saying like he said, if he runs his driveway towards the apartment side, what's his setback from because he has to leave a boulevard and a sidewalk then, right?
Setbacks are 40 feet in the C3 district from the property line, which would be right where the sidewalk is,
Okay, thank you.
typically.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I do have one more. I'm just a little bit confused about the apartment and the contractor shop. So Phase 1 is going to be a contractor shop with attached apartments in the northwestern portion of the lot. So is there enough room in the northwestern portion of the lot for contractor shop and attached apartments?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other contractor shops will be essentially along the sidewalk?
Yeah, 40 feet back at least.
Right, but I mean on that side of the property. On lots 6 and 7, whereas the first phase will be in 5, what we're calling 5 until it's changed.
Right. Yep.
All right, thank you, sir. I do have a public hearing open if anybody here is to speak on behalf or against. Anybody else in the public?
I'm Doug Mills. I live on the north end of this. And I can't see if I can't build a garage bigger on my property, how he could squeeze apartments into a 50 by 90 foot square and meet all your setbacks without variances and everything else. We already got the junkyard developing around in front of Lonnie's business on the east side. You got Johnson's, where Johnson's Medical used to be, has already been torn down, and that looks like a junkyard half the time. So that's why I worry about when it says storage, I kind of get worried about it.
So I'll answer your questions too, so you are zoned R2A and your property is 8,200 square feet. This property is 20,000 square feet and it is zoned commercial. And it is adjacent to commercial zoning. And you already have one unattached garage that most likely meets the maximum size requirement allowed. You could do it an attached garage, it looks like, but it's just how ordinance is written for residential districts. That's the main difference, is the residential versus commercial zoning.
That was my piece.
Sir, would you want him to have a fence between your house and his
Oh,
house?
I definitely want a fence between him and me.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I just added, at this time, we're looking at the land use, and the applicant is not requesting a variance, right? This is for conditional use only, so they'd still have to meet all setback requirements that govern the zone.
Parking and everything else.
Yep.
Public hearing is open. If there's anybody else to speak on behalf or against. Is there anybody online on Teams?
No, there was not.
Okay, I will close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion to approve the request for apartments and contracts, shops, and storage yards with the following conditions to be attached. That there will be fencing in accordance with the city's zoning regulations on all properties abutting residentially zoned property, and that there will be no outdoor storage associated with any contractor shop.
We have a motion by Mr. Kays,
Second.
second by Brink. Any additional discussion on this item?
I'll just throw the hard surfacing out there.
Remind me, Brandy, they don't have to put hard surfacing in C3 zone?
No, they do.
Oh, that's what I thought, okay. So yeah, that's taken care of.
Other comments? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
All right, Colhane,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Case.
Yes.
Vote is unanimous. That motion is approved. We'll move on to item 5B on the agenda as board consideration of another conditional use request. Brandy, can I have you take us through that one as well?
Yes, thank you, Blake. So this is a request for an existing, longtime existing residence in the C3 district, highway commercial. I'll get to it here. It is abutting R2A, single-family residential attached, or single-family attached residential district. All right, I'm all over the place here. Okay. So here we have Highway 81 and then First Avenue, the 81 Quick Stop and Watertown Nutrition, or sorry, 605 Nutrition. And it is this property here, as you probably have already seen on your vicinity map as well. So the current, to convey the property, basically this comes down to allow with mortgage lending and the assurance that the house can exist. Now, there is language in our ordinance about like that the single family home can exist in any district, because when all of these properties were rezoned to be more in conformance with where the highways are and whatnot, and just as they redevelop, to see them go into conformance. Now, a lot of these properties are not meeting the minimum lot size and whatnot. Now, the current property owner, it was not their doing, but these properties were rezoned to R2A, single-family residential attached district, so that they were in conformance because the houses existed. So so they opted out. The property owner at that time opted out, and so now that's where we're at today, because the property is set to close and to receive a conditional use, giving the assurance that the single-family residence can continue to exist as it has for many years in this C3 district. But I did put on there a condition that the property owner rezone to the R2A district within a year. But in efforts to get the property closed, this also we'll have to initiate it as the plan commission, because the R2A district is closed. Right. So they can't actually petition to rezone to it unless the plan commission initiates it, and we don't have plan commission today. So we'll do that at the next meeting, but just so that it gets done within, or a following meeting, but basically just so it gets done within a year so it cleans it up.
So if the motion would be to approve with the condition that the planning commission initiates a rezoning of this property and it will not be objected to by the landowner?
You bet. That's what I got written right there on the suggested motion.
Yep. And so this property was an example of one. It could have gone either way, right? They didn't change at the time because they anticipated it might have gone to a commercial use at some point. Now there's a buyer that wants to keep it a residential use.
Yep.
Okay, I will open the public hearing. If there's anybody here to speak on behalf or against. Is there any questions? Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing. We'll look for a motion by the board.
As suggested by staff, I make the motion to approve the CUP for any and all permitted uses in the R1 Single Family Residential District where such use existed prior to the adoption of the conditional use, and where such conditional use, if granted, will be limited to rebuilding or remodeling of such pre-existing use in the C3 Highway Commercial District, following with the condition that, page 13, it ran out, the condition that the Board of Adjustment initiates, Board of Adjustment.
Or are you gonna just read it?
It's not on my page in here. It ran off. Property be
Oh, here
rezoned-
it is up here.
Property be rezoned R2A, single-family attached residential within one district, 1 year of the plan, and that the applicant, all this further, that the applicant cannot object to the rezoning.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kays. I got a second by Colhane. Any additional comments by the board? We'll take a roll call vote.
All right. Kays,
Yes.
Aletsky,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Brink.
Yes.
Dargis Johnson.
I just want to say no, I'm kidding. Yes.
Yes.
Colhane.
That motion is unanimous. That motion carries. We'll move on to item 5C, which is a variance request. Brandy, can you take us through that one as well?
Yes, thank you, Blake. So this is a variance request for 30 North Lake Drive, and the property has a total of, let's see here. I'm just gonna go over to it quick. So what we're asking for here is a extension of the accessory structure or the detached garage. I believe, let me just stay focused on my thoughts here. All right, so it is zoned R3 multifamily residential. It is utilized though as a single-family residence. And, oops, we're 30. So there's a total of 19,431 square feet, and which allows for the larger accessory structure on the property, as in the R1 that this property really functions as, only requires a minimum of 9,000 square feet. So this property is double that. And what the request is here is to have a third stall included, and to meet, for the most part, meeting the 9-foot side yard setback requirement, or rear yard requirement adjacent to a street for properties at the lake. Also the same that goes for any detached structure for that. If they're entering perpendicular to a street, they can, and this is at the lake, because remember, the rear, even though along the street, that's typically a front yard, it is considered the rear yard at the lake. So it's the same for any property with a rear yard. If you are entering, if you're entering parallel, you can be 9 foot. Oh my gosh. What a struggle. Okay, I just have to confirm this now. 9 foot.
9 foot.
Instead of, okay, so then if your garage door is entering parallel, you can be 9 feet. Otherwise, if you're entering perpendicular, it's 20 feet. Got it, sorry. And this is for structures greater than 200 square feet. So with the angle of this property, there will be a portion that will have a lesser setback than the 9 foot required. So you can see that the pink area is what is the portion that will not be in conformance with the setback. And then you'll see further to the east that we go, or kind of, northeast, southeast. you'll get up to 13.3 feet. So at the northwestern portion, you'll be 5.4 foot setback. And then at the northeastern portion, you'll be at 13.3 feet. I know there was questions about the Clearview triangle for the driveway.
Yeah, which I
and-
think you have on the next page there, right?
And then the curb cut is larger than that. We will ensure that is upheld with a building permit application. And also, it could be something that potentially it could be narrowed, the curb cut, depending on the, if he's not meeting it or not. If it is a larger curb cut today.
There is a power pole there, so I don't know that you could actively enlarge that curb cut, but I think if we were to put a structure there and approve it, we'd want to maintain that curb cut couldn't be enlarged, because that would further exacerbate that clear view triangle, right?
Yeah.
Could you just zoom in on that a little bit, Brandy, so that we can look? It's not really
You,
clear.
on this
On the
one,
clear
Blake?
view triangle there that you've got, because that's
Okay.
that blue drawing, right? That overlay. It doesn't really spell it out, but we do have in our ordinance some restrictions on where you can place structures, including, even fences that would block your view in relation to both road intersections as well as driveway intersections with road, and that's a safety concern. So we don't want anything to exist within that clear view triangle. And as it's drawn out here on the page, I did have some questions for Brandy in terms of where that boundary would actually start, because it looks like the curb cut is slightly different on this view than what I see like on a satellite overhead view. But as you said, Brandy, you would validate that before you would issue the building permit.
Yep.
Brandy, or Chair.
Yep.
The current garage is separated from the house by more than 10 feet, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This does have a public hearing. I'll open that at this time.
Do you want to say anything? If they have questions, or you can sit up here. At least give your introduction.
My name is Larry Andrus. I'm the one that's asking for this variance. Do you have any questions at all?
Question by the board? None? No questions for you, sir?
Just wanted to meet you there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I should make it known to the public that prior to the application being applied for the City of Watertown Board of Adjustment, that Mr. Endries did contact me prior to making the application to let me know that he was making an application. He told me about his project, but it does not, I believe, has not prejudiced me in making my decision as moving forward, but as a point of interest, it was an ex parte contact that happened prior to this meeting.
Appreciate the disclosure.
Appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Andrus. Was there anybody else to speak on behalf or against in the public hearing?
What's that?
Did you want to say anything more?
Well, otherwise you're good. Well, I have the letters, I'm assuming is in your packet too. I got a letter from Charles Redlund that lives on one side of me. Letter
Yeah, we did see
Bob
from
Day on the other
both
one.
neighbors.
Yeah, so that's the only people that are out there. I got no other neighbors, so, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing now at this time.
Chair,
Yep.
full disclosure, I also met with Larry prior to his application and looked at the site, which was helpful to be there. So I do appreciate the heads up before it came to our board. It just makes sometimes that a little easier. So, thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
to move things along, I'd make a motion to approve the variance as requested based on a couple of my findings. One, the the amount of the structure that is non-compliant is very minimal in the overall scope of the proposed project. Two, there is quite a bit of public right-of-way immediately adjacent to the property that allows more adequate vision clearance as you're approaching. The will not be going in and out of that property. He'll have to back up onto his driveway to exit that property to go out. So I think from a safety standpoint, it's very much mitigated. And again, I think the overall portion of the property that's at a variance, that needs the variance is minimal.
I have a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Any additional comments, discussion? In terms of my comment, Brandy, regarding the expansion of that curb cut, is that something that the city would have to approve, and so therefore we would not have to put any condition on it? You would not let it move forward from a city perspective if it was going to impact that Clearview triangle?
Correct. Yep, that'll be an engineering review during the building permit application.
And at any time in the future, if he wanted to expand that again, he would have to come to the city would review that and make sure that it's still in compliance.
Yep. Yep, for residential districts, and like you're saying too, totally noted, where we'll make sure that that Clearview triangle is upheld. But so typically a residence can have a 36-foot maximum curb cut. But yeah, he might be limited to that for a narrower size just because to be able to still have his Clearview triangle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other comments? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
All right. Dolly,
Yes?
Brink,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Aletsky,
Yes.
Wilhane,
Yes.
Kays.
Yes.
That is unanimous as well. That motion carries.
Okay.
Item 6 is open public comments. I don't believe we have anybody here to speak on an item that wasn't on the agenda, so we'll go on to new business.
None that I have today.
Any old business?
Nope.
Take a motion to adjourn. Motion, do I have a second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
Hey,